Welcome and bienvenue to the AgeWell EPIC Conference 2025. It's a privilege to be here with this community of innovators, researchers, professionals, and stakeholders dedicated to advancing the age tech sector in Canada, and more importantly, to improving the lives of older adults and caregivers through technology and technology-related solutions. I'm Samantha Sandasi, AgeWell's Director of Education and Training and the Platform Manager for our spin-off training platform, EPIC AT. It's my honor to kick off this exciting event today. Now, although we're meeting virtually today, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands we are on today. This acknowledgement reaffirms our commitment, both individual and collective, to improving relationships between nations and deepening our understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures. I encourage you to reflect on the land where you are situated and your relationship to it and its traditional keepers. The AgeWell Network Office operates on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. We also recognize the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This land remains home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement, which promotes peace and cooperation among people sharing the Great Lakes region. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land today and acknowledge our accountability and responsibility to further the reconciliation process. AgeWell is committed to fostering equitable and inclusive practices across all of its programs, and we explicitly welcome and strive to incorporate Indigenous ways of knowing and being throughout our research, education, and implementation programs. Now, I know that you were expecting Alex Mielides to be here with us today, and he really did not want to miss this opportunity to connect with this remarkable group. So he has sent along his welcome message to share with you virtually. So we do have another video lined up, and I don't know if this is going to work either, but we don't need the sound for this one, so that's okay. So when AgeWell started 10 years ago, we knew that to drive innovative, transformative change in research, we had to change the culture of research by breaking down disciplinary research silos, by connecting researchers with stakeholders across sectors and with older adults and caregivers, and to really create a space for real innovation to happen. And today, even though we couldn't get Alex with us, we're really excited to give you a glimpse of one more way we're accelerating the development and delivery of practical technology-based solutions. So in partnership with the University of Toronto, with IKEA, and a number of AgeWell startups, AgeWell's newly launched Innovation Studio is an immersive space that brings to life how technology and thoughtfully designed environments can enable people to age in place, to age at home as they would like to. So this space, this Innovation Studio, is modeled after a typical one-bedroom apartment, and it integrates things like smart home systems, health monitoring devices, voice-integrated personal aids, and other cutting-edge technologies to show how they can really seamlessly support daily activities and health needs. So specific features include things like smart stove safety devices that alert users or caregivers if a stove is left unattended. A sleep tracker that can detect vital signs and sense when someone gets out of bed. It can help monitor sleep patterns and safety, and exergames that promote both physical and cognitive health by pairing cycling with scenic videos, for example. So the AgeWell Innovation Studio is more than just a demonstration space. The studio really serves as a hub for innovation. It connects startups, larger companies, researchers, senior living and home care organizations, older adults and caregivers, investors, and other partners. So here's a glimpse of what to expect when the space is in full swing. Allison's going to share another video, and like I said, we don't need sound for this one. Allison. Of course, the sound worked for that one. Given that that one just worked, well, first off, I'll say that we'd like to extend our thanks to U of T, IKEA Toronto Downtown, and really want to acknowledge the AgeWell startup affiliates that are the first users of that space. And you saw them in that video: AltumView, Centivisor, Chirp, and TalkTech Technologies. You can visit the AgeWell Innovation Studio for a guided tour. You can experience these innovations firsthand and participate in demo sessions if you wish. So to learn more and to explore partnership opportunities, you can do that by visiting our Innovation Studio webpage or contact us at partnerships@agewell-nce.ca, and Allison will post that in the chat as well. Now that we've gotten the sound figured out, I think we should circle back and play Alex's welcome message. Allison.
Good morning, everyone, and bienvenue à tous. I want to start by saying how much I wish I could be there with you in person, or even virtually, to help kick off this year's EPIC conference. But as some of you know, I'm currently on leave living with my family in the south of Spain and sending this greeting to you from, of all places, the front seat of a car. While I may not be able to join you live, I absolutely didn't want to miss the opportunity to welcome you to what is, in my view, one of the most energizing and meaningful events in the AgeWell calendar. For those I haven't yet had the chance to meet, I'm Alex Mihailidis, AgeWell's Vice Chair of Research. And even from a distance, I'm incredibly proud to help launch the EPIC Conference 2025, a gathering that brings together our diverse and growing community of researchers, trainees, older adults, caregivers, industry leaders, and policymakers. This year's conference comes at a time when the momentum behind age tech has never been stronger, and that's in no small part because of all of you. We are facing one of the defining challenges of our time: how we support people as they age in ways that are sustainable, inclusive, and rooted in dignity. At AgeWell, we've always believed that technology, when developed responsibly and in partnership with the people it's meant to support, can be a powerful part of that solution. And that belief is what EPIC is all about. This conference has always centered our trainees, the future leaders of age tech. Many of you presenting this year are doing so for the first time, while others are returning as experienced researchers or alumni. Regardless of where you are in your journey, you are helping to push the boundaries of what's possible, whether it's developing smarter sensors, ethical AI tools, accessible user interfaces, or entirely new systems of care. In fact, one of the things I love most about this year's EPIC conference is that all of our conference chairs are early career researchers, many of whom started out as EPIC trainees themselves. That's a powerful testament to the strength of our network and the commitment we've made to mentorship, leadership, and building a pipeline of talent across disciplines. But the brilliance of EPIC isn't just in the technology, it's in the collaboration. I want to especially recognize the stakeholder co-presenters who are participating this year: older adults, caregivers, and community partners whose lived experiences are not just included, but embedded in this work. Your voices make our research more relevant, more grounded, and more impactful. Thank you for your time, your honesty, and your partnership. We've seen real success as a community, from major research milestones and commercial ventures to policy influence and community adoption. But there is still much to do. We need more research, more innovation, and above all, more meaningful dialogue across disciplines and sectors. As we kick off this conference, I encourage everyone to be open, curious, respectful, and generous with your ideas, your time, and your support for one another. Please also take a moment to review our code of conduct, available on the conference website. Let's continue to create a space where everyone feels welcome and empowered to contribute. And of course, a little healthy competition doesn't hurt. We'll be awarding prizes for the top EPIC conference presentation and our runner-up. So bring your best, lift up your colleagues, and let's celebrate what's possible when we work together. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for making EPIC what it is. Not just a conference, but a vibrant, inclusive community of people who care deeply about aging, technology, and positive change. Have an amazing conference. I'll be cheering you on from across the ocean.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Alex, for sending that lovely message. As anyone who knows AgeWell knows, Alex is deeply supportive of our training programs and all of our trainees, our ECRs, our older adult stakeholders and caregivers that are part of this conference. And he is deeply regretful that he is in a car and can't join us in person, but Alex the Avatar was a wonderful addition. Now, without further ado, let's get this conference started. So I would like to turn things over now to Dr. Aaron Yurkewich, an assistant professor of mechatronic engineering at Ontario Tech University. He's here to chair the Supportive Homes and Community session, and I must say that he is also a former AgeWell HQP back from 2015, one of the OG HQP. Aaron, take it away.
Thank you for the epic opening, Sam and Alex. I'm Aaron Yurkewich, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Engineering and Applied Science at Ontario Tech University, and I'll be chairing this session on supportive homes and communities. Before we begin today's session, I'd like to note we have 8 epic conference sessions, which will take place on Zoom from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday to Friday this week and next week as well. We encourage you to attend all of the sessions. Check out the AgeWell EPIC Conference webpage to download the EPIC Conference program, which includes details on each challenge area session. We'll begin today's talk with a session with a short presentation on supportive homes and communities, this challenge area, and then we'll have research presentations from some people that I'm excited to introduce to you. That will be Zain Hasan and Adrianne McMahon, which will present machine learning to detect motor agitation in people with dementia using real-time location data. Ali and Farhad, who will present PATH, which is a program to accelerate technologies for home care. And finally, Nigel will be highlighting how WellBe is moving the dial by improving the quality of life for Canadian older adults and caregivers. So next, all attendees are encouraged to use the Q&A box. So that's the chat box in the bottom right corner to ask any questions, and we'll get to them in each of the Q&As that come after each presentation, as well as the more extensive Q&A at the end. Feel free to ask any questions. No matter how small, all of these can generate some new research questions, as well as some ideas and innovations that could really help many people in this world. So we also welcome you to use the chat and also to contact after if you have any other questions or inspirations. So this is an opportunity for you, our conference attendees, to contribute to the overall discussion that places the presentations in a larger discourse and addresses potential research and real-world impact. The session is being recorded and will be available for playback. So you can go back, you can listen to everything that you may have missed or you want to use to extend your knowledge or to help you prototype your future technologies. So links to the playback will be posted on the EPIC Conference webpage and the AgeWell YouTube channel as well. Should you choose, you can enable closed captioning for Zoom on your Zoom toolbar. Without further ado, let's begin with a short presentation of the challenge area of the supported homes and communities by myself. So I'll give a 5-minute presentation, and then we'll jump into the other presentations after that. Let me go ahead, share my screen here. All right, so hi, my name is Aaron Yurkewich. I'm an assistant professor at Ontario Tech University. So it's just a slight bit east of Toronto. So first of all, let's talk about AgeWell in general. It's Canada's leadership It shows Canada's leadership in technology and the benefits of aging to our world, with the mission to develop a community of researchers, older adults, caregivers, partners, and future leaders that accelerate the delivery of technology-based solutions that make a meaningful difference in the lives of Canadians. So as somebody who's been part of this AgeWell network now for 10 years, I've really noticed that the push of AgeWell has made it so that we interact with more than just our research teams, but also with people in the community that are living day to day with these challenges, as well as people from political sphere, healthcare institutions that help us have a broader view on how our technology really fits in with all the other technologies. Because one of the largest things we find is, okay, your system works on its own, but as soon as you bring it to the real world where people have different houses, people have different needs, people have different sets of family and caregiving, this one fits all solution doesn't end up really fitting into anybody's lifestyle. And so that's where if we bring more people together, have this larger scope, we'll have better technologies that really make it in the real world. So AgeWell by the numbers, you can see here there's this large impact on the number of research trainees that have come through the AgeWell network. We have 5,000 engaged older adults and caregivers, which is just a remarkable feat in how this program has reached past the research centers and really into the lives and the fundamental needs of older adults and the caregivers as well. So without further ado, let's talk about supportive homes and communities. So this is until 1 p.m. today. And if you want to post about this, you can use our hashtag AWEpic2025. Welcome everyone in attendance. So first of all, let's talk about what is supportive homes and communities. The main focus is that we can have people that age in place. Aging in place is about being able to live independently in your own home and community through appropriate supports and services. So some examples of this would be a smart home that allows you to live independently, and anytime there's a need, it will help you solve it and go about your goals and your daily activities. Or sensors to monitor you safely at home. So maybe you're worried that you might have a fall, and these systems can monitor, maybe predict that this will happen and help to intervene ahead of time. Or online portals for community groups and programs, because oftentimes it's just the knowledge that these groups exist is all you need to know how to get involved more in your community. Okay, so when I was reading about where these challenges exist in aging in place, the number that really shocked me was that the average age at which people move to a long-term care home is 83. So if you think of when you retire, that's only 20 more years. It's really a very short time after retirement where people generally go to long-term care. And I think this is something that we really need to innovate around so that people can really have a really great quality of life in their home and extend this age to something much further. Now, what really is the cause? Oftentimes, the prevalent causes for relocation are something severe like dementia or a fall or the decline in their spouse's health. And so all these kind of needs that you've shared or being codependent on are now things that are missed. And some of these reasons for the relocation are the different aspects of mental, physical health, social isolation, challenges in the environment. So such as maybe your pharmacy closes down and now pharmacies are a further distance away, or your living conditions, or having few living conditions, maybe you're now not able to go up your stairs or use your bath safely, or there's just too much maintenance in your home to keep up with. And lastly, having fewer resources, maybe not having the spending power to feel you can invest in technologies that will support you living at home longer. So with this, I'll give a short introduction of my lab, the Biorobotics Lab at Ontario Tech University, where our goal is to enable independence. And so 3 technologies we've developed recently in collaboration with industry and older adults in the community is one is a sit to stand device. So something you attach to your leg, and now it allows you to lift from your chair without any extra effort from yourself. And so if this becomes fatiguing, the system can fully kick in, help you out. Or if you want to do some yourself, the system will back off and help just as much as you would like it to. Second is a wheelchair docking system. So when you go on to something like a GO train, you normally just put your brakes on. Well, what if that car stops very, very quickly? Your wheelchair may be sliding out. And so we created a docking system that you can just roll yourself into, and it will clamp your wheels to keep you in place. And finally, a technology that I've been working on for maybe 10 years now is called the Hero Glove. And this device helps people grip and extend their hands. So with people with paralysis or weakness in their hands, allowing them to grip daily objects so they can perform their activities of daily living more independently. Lastly, I'd just like to highlight that I'm currently recruiting master's and PhD students, and you have my contact email at the bottom if you want to learn more about these projects or to get involved in the research itself. Thank you. So with this, I will go on to our next, I will introduce our next presenters. All right. Okay, so presentation one will be from Zain Zain Hasan and Adrianne McMahon. Zain is a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto, working at the intersection of machine learning and biomedical engineering. He completed his undergraduate degree at the University of Toronto in engineering science, and that's actually where I met Zain. He then founded Vinci Labs, developed a digital health platform that leveraged machine learning to remotely monitor chronically ill patients using data from medical devices. More recently, he practiced as a senior lecturer, data scientist in Toronto, and he's passionate about the field of data science and machine learning, and loves to share his love for the field with anyone interested in the domain. And next, I'll just introduce Adrianne McMahon, is a clinical behaviorist at Harbourstone Enhanced Care in Shannex with extensive experience in dementia care. She directly supports residents exhibiting neuropsychiatric symptoms, including motor agitation. McMahon recognizes the potential of this technology to enable earlier intervention, reduce subjective assessment variability, and develop more personalized care models tailored to individual behavior patterns. Her clinical perspective ensures that the research maintains practical relevance in addressing the real challenges faced in long-term dementia care environments. So, first, so I'd like to introduce our speakers and let Zain take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Let me share my screen here. All right. So we'll start it off. So this is our presentation, and here we go.
So as a behaviorist in long-term care, a lot of my role involves conducting behavioral assessments and developing intervention plans. So the assessment process is really important to help understand why residents engage in behaviors that challenge and how we can support them more effectively. But that process itself can have some challenges. So when I'm interviewing staff, the information I'm getting is based on that person's interpretation, and it might vary depending on who I talk to, right? And the details are usually based on memory, which can be subject to bias as well. Direct observation is ideal, but that can be difficult to do consistently just due to time constraints and staffing ratios. And when I'm reviewing charts, typically what gets charted is behavior that is considered out of the ordinary. So we may not see elevated baselines or patterns that have shifted slowly over time. Those don't get recorded. Because of those challenges, sometimes we're missing out on information about behaviors that could be early indicators or precursors of behavioral escalation. So if we could actually recognize those cues earlier, that could help us intervene earlier, ultimately improving quality of life for the residents that we're supporting.
And so the technology that we're proposing to use to help improve improve the standard of care is real-time location systems. And this technology offers continuous, non-intrusive monitoring that'll allow us to assess a patient with minimal effort from the staff. And so the promise of using this technology is really personalized care. We can establish baselines for individual patients. We can assess anomalous behavior outside of those baselines. We can also build systems around this RTLS technology that'll serve as early warning systems for staff and caretakers. And this can really enable data-driven care and planning. And so our project focuses mainly on detecting motor agitation automatically, and Adrianne will talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we're talking about motor agitation, what we're referring to is excessive or repetitive movements that might be an indication of distress or discomfort in the folks that we're supporting. So in my role, sometimes we'll see this as including pacing, wandering, rocking, shifting around in chair, banging at tables or chairs. The thing is, these behaviors aren't always indications of distress, right? Sometimes they might be normal, healthy movement, but unlike that normal purposeful movement, like say walking to the dining room or getting up to stretch, motor agitation tends to be more repetitive, non-goal oriented, and it might escalate if it's not recognized early on and intervened. So distinguishing between that healthy movement and motor agitation is really important because it might be a sign of pain or anxiety or frustration because of other needs that aren't being met, right? So this early detection would allow us to intervene sooner, possibly before more intense behaviors emerge. And so if we have access to collecting reliable, consistent data on these behaviors, we can also evaluate how people are responding to interventions, monitor those trends over time, and use that information to optimize care planning that's proactive and person-centered.
And so the data set that we collected at Toronto Rehab at the Specialized Dementia Unit consists of longitudinal data that was collected 24/7 over a period of a little over 1 year. And it consists of essentially tracking patients over the unit over an 8-hour period shift. And so the data looks kind of like this from top down, where we're looking at XY coordinates of patients as they're going about the shift. And this totals about 7,000 shifts worth of data. And a total of 47 patients were tracked during this period. So this is a lot of data that we had access to and we could build on top of. So the question that we wanted to answer with this data is, could we use this location tracking data to distinguish clinically significant motor agitation from normal activities in individuals? As Adrianne mentioned, not all of these activities are significant motor agitation, and we wanted to distinguish between them. And so what we did is we applied a machine learning modeling technique where we extracted 43 different trajectory-based features, which could include the speed of motion, nonlinearity, tortuosity, activity levels, where the patient actually was. We augmented that with clinical baseline metrics. So whether the patient was diagnosed with dementia, their NPI, SIRS, MMSE scores, whether they were using mobility aids or not. And we used the Pittsburgh Agitation Scale, Motor Agitation Subscore, as the ground truth label to identify motor agitation, and nurses identified the presence of this for every shift that we monitored. And so this is a highly imbalanced machine learning modeling problem with about 80% of shifts not showing any agitation and only 20% showing agitation. And so we had to take that into account in our machine learning modeling. And so just quickly, we were able to prove that we could train classification models that significantly improved the clinical baseline. So the red line here is a clinical baseline, just using clinical data. The blue line here is a model that only had access to real-time location data. And the green line here is the best model that we were able to train, which incorporates both the RTLS data as well as clinical data. And we looked at different validation metrics to assess whether the model was actually improving the ability to classify motor agitation. Next, we wanted to see if the model was getting the right answer for the right reason. So we conducted interpretability analysis to see which features that we fed into the model actually ended up being most useful in helping it distinguish motor agitation. And we found out that the speed at which patients were moving was significantly indicative of motor agitation or not. So high values here are in red, low values of speed here are in blue, and the horizontal line here is the average amount of motor agitation seen across 7,000 shifts. And here you can see that as the speed with which patients move increases, this is indicative to the model of high motor agitation. The total path length, the amount of distance that any patient moved, was also positively indicative of motor agitation. And the nonlinearity or the tortuosity of motion was also indicative. So if a patient is wandering around and their trajectory is highly nonlinear, that would be positively indicative of motor agitation. And so we did this for the top 20 features that the model found important. And then we looked at this from a clinical perspective to see if these features made sense from our clinical understanding. And a lot of these did make sense. Not only that, but we also looked at whether the model was making sensible mistakes when it did make mistakes. And so to do this, what we looked at is when the model predicted a false positive, i.e. it predicted that there was agitation, but there actually wasn't agitation. When we looked at the clinical notes for those shifts, we saw that those shifts were actually rated, or we could re-rate them as clinically significant motor agitation. And when we looked at the model false negatives, where the model thought there was no agitation, but there was actual agitation, when clinicians looked at these particular shifts after the fact, we realized that a lot of these could be re-rated into the 0 to 2 pass MA bucket, which would signify that there wasn't that significant of a motor agitation event that took place. And so in short, the model picked the right answer for the right reason. And when it did make mistakes, the mistakes were sensible from a clinical perspective, and clinicians could verify that after the fact. And so this tells us that the model is successful at picking up these subtleties in agitation that weren't initially captured by staff ratings. And so the key takeaways and the limitations of our model is that we can successfully identify clinical motor agitation just using RTLS data. And the model gives interpretable and clinically sensible answers. And it also makes clinically sensible mistakes that can be verified or explained from a clinical perspective after the fact. Some of the limitations of our machine learning modeling is that it's granular. We only conducted it on an 8-hour shift level. And it's not specific to one patient. So we conducted this inter-patient analysis, and we could in the future conduct intra-patient analysis where we look at only one patient at a time and we train one model on them.
Yeah. And so while Zain's focus has been on that kind of group data, I see other ways also to use this technology in everyday practice on a more individualized level as well. So it can help us detect whether patterns in agitation is happening at certain times with certain people, specific environment. And that gives us insight into why the behavior is occurring, which in turn helps me determine the most appropriate interventions for that person. And by establishing resident-specific baselines, we can measure how behavior changes over time and evaluate how well our interventions are working. This data can also improve the way that we use medications that are administered on a PRN or an as-needed basis, because it could help us determine when the medications are truly needed and whether or not they're effective without just relying on our assumptions that they will be. Right? It can help us to avoid incorrect treatment, like giving anxiety medication if pain is actually the underlying issue. And some people can even experience what we call paradoxical effects, meaning maybe a medication that's intended to reduce motor agitation could actually be increasing it. And having objective data could help us monitor for all of those issues within these medications. Finally, accurate tracking can support safe deprescribing. So we want to ensure that medications are decreased or discontinued when they're no longer necessary, and that these adjustments are based on real outcomes, not just guesswork.
Thank you so much. We'll take questions now. Thanks everybody for your attention.
Thank you so much, Zain, Zain and Adrianne, for your presentation. In the interest of time, would you be able to put your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get to both in the next section of the Q&A. With that, I'd like to go on to our next set of speakers. So for presentation 2, which is Ali, Barzegar, Khanghah, and Farhad Keramati. Ali is a third-year PhD candidate in biomedical engineering at the University of Toronto and with KITE-UHN, specializing in smart infection prevention and control strategies. His research leverages AI and clinical data to predict and prevent healthcare-associated infections such as MRSA. Farhad Keramati is the Chief Technical Officer at SmartONE. Farhad received his master's degree from the University of Toronto in computer engineering, and he's worked on multiple projects involving design and development of his technologies related to smart homes, IoT, and its uses in healthcare. So with that, I'd invite you to take it away with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Barzegar Khanghah. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm glad to be here today presenting to you PATH, Program to Accelerate Technologies for Home Care, with my partner Farhad Keramati from SmartONE. So we are here in the Age-Well EPIC conference. Let's start by talking about aging specifically here in Canada. So the population of people aged 65 years and older has been rising in Canada, and it's no more a future issue. It's already reshaping our society, our healthcare system, and our economy. This highlights the importance of innovating in adapting our transportation system, our housing, our healthcare, because we are going to face the most number of seniors that are going to live longer than ever. So we have to be ready for that. And this was why PATH was created in the first place. But PATH is not the only program seeking to tackle these challenges. And let's see what are some of the current challenges with the available home health systems. First, they are costly and they're hard to maintain. Moreover, many of the available products, they produce a lot of false alarms. For instance, the fall detection systems. And this results in trust issues. Also, there is the trust issue between the customer and some of the companies producing these products on how well they are managing the privacy of their customers. And lastly, if there is out there that are eager to come up with new solutions, there is the challenge of lack of data. And we all know that data collection is a time-consuming and costly process. So PATH tries to tackle these challenges. And what it does is that it provides a hub with a unifying technology that combines different communication protocols in order to connect different types of devices, sensors, and actuators through a single interface, cloud-based AI engine. We are currently partnering with different institutions across Canada. We are working with the Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital and the University of Alberta in Alberta. Here in Ontario, we are working with the University of Waterloo and the Research Institute for Aging. We are also working with the Pearly Rideau Center in Ottawa and University of Ottawa. PATH itself is based in Toronto Rehab Institute, KITE-UHN, here in Toronto. And we have our industrial partner, SmartONE, A shout out to Ted Malucci, the CEO of SmartONE, for their immense support and their amazing team for all the technical support they've had for PATH so far. So PATH started its mission in 2019, and so far we have integrated all the sensors that you can see in this slide into the platform. This is a layout of what we call a home lab, which mimics an actual home but is used by researchers to do their studies. We have all sorts of sensors such as health trackers, pressure matrices, cameras, radars, and also we've integrated SmartONE sensors such as motion sensors, door contact sensors that can be used for a variety of different projects. We have so far defined 11 different projects. One of the features that we are currently working on is providing the researchers working with the PATH platform to have access to the real-time visualization of the data they're collecting. And that's by the 3 approaches we use for basically collecting this data and putting it on the PATH cloud. One is using a messaging protocol called the MQTT protocol. Second, if the device or sensor already comes with an application programming interface, we're going to interact with the API, and that's how we're going to collect the data. And lastly, if none of these are possible, we are using a local computer on site to do the data collection. This way, the researchers can validate the data they're collecting in real time. Recently, we proposed with the partnership of SmartONE to move to a real-world scenario with a real-world project focusing on activities of daily living and fall detection. This project is going to be done in multiple phases. In the first phase, we are going to use the 4 equipped home labs that I just introduced in order to develop and validate our artificial intelligence models. When we are comfortable about the models, the technologies that pass the first phase are going to be used in up to 40 senior homes across Canada. And then we are going to do the real-time data collection, and the last phase is going to be the fine-tuning of the models for them to be more aligned with the real-world scenarios. And if this becomes successful, it's going to be a huge step in this field of research, because the platform is going to empower other researchers to use this capability of sharing data with data sharing agreements using the multi-fusion capability of PATH and to facilitate their data collection. And lastly, but an important piece that we are currently working on, we have not entered the implementation stage yet, is adding AI to PATH. Because one of the challenges specifically for myself is downloading all these data from different sensors, different type of data, moving them to a cluster, and then running my models. So we are thinking about ways that we can integrate AI into PATH so that researchers can also execute their models online, do model tracking, tuning, and evaluation. I'm now handing over the presentation to Farhad from SmartONE. Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. So I'm from SmartONE Solutions, and as Ali mentioned, SmartONE Solution is the industry partner for PATH project. We are a smart community company. That means we go into buildings and we create a smart community within that building. That is, connecting all the smart devices within the suites in the building, and also connecting all the different smart building components and building automation components within the same platform. Where that comes in play with PATH is we already have tens of buildings or tens of thousands of suites that are fully connected. They have all these smart devices. They have a hub inside the suite. So when we actually build a technology or a capability in the lab and we see it's promising and we want to implement that in the real world, we already have that platform and we can quickly implement that into production. We can get feedback, see how impactful that is. And that is usually something that is very hard. If you create a solution in the lab, actually trying it out in real world takes a lot of time and effort. And hopefully with SmartONE Solutions collaboration, we can do that much faster, get feedback, and do faster iterations on the technologies that we build. So where we come in is, having that connected community and devices to quickly implement these solutions. And the second effort that SmartONE is doing is building connected communities, but in a different sense. So here, when we talk about connected communities, we're not just talking about connecting devices or connecting hardware or sensors. We actually mean connecting individuals within the community, because that is also a big part of aging in place. You want the people that, that feel that they belong to a community, feel like they're connected to other individuals, whether it's, other residents in that building or their family members, to kind of get out of isolation as much as possible. So these are the two areas that SmartONE is spending time on and helping Path Project.
Thank
That's
you
pretty
so
much
much.
all our.
Yeah, we are open to questions now. Thank you.
All right, thank you both for your presentation. So we could take a couple minutes to answer one or two questions. Zain, you still online? Maybe you can answer this question that you had in the Q&A. Let's see. I think your audio is off. Okay. And in the meantime, also, if people have their contact info, you can post it in the chat as well. In the interest of time, we'll go to the next presenter, and then we'll do a longer Q&A at the end. So here we have next, we have the Move the Dial presenter, Nigel van der Linden. And so he'll be talking about Wellbe, which is a residence engagement AI platform that helps teams to deliver personalized senior living experiences at scale. So take it away, Nigel. Thank you. Oh, Nigel, you need your audio.
How is it now?
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the false start. Hello, everyone. I'm Nigel van der Linden from Wellbe, and today I want to talk to you about something we all care very deeply about: helping older adults live longer, healthier lives. So at Wellbe, we're using resident engagement AI to do exactly that. Wellbe gives operators the tools to create personalized, scalable resident experiences all in one platform. It starts with real-time resident intelligence, combining assessments, profiles, and engagement data to inform care and planning. With engagement planning, teams can build meaningful, goal-driven programs that align with both resident needs as well as your organization's standards. Communication tools to keep residents and families connected through branded apps, websites, and in-room contents. And with corporate insights, head office gains visibility into programming, outcomes, and compliance across every community. Of course, everything is supported by robust enterprise features like integrations, SSO, and role-based access, built for scale and security. Wellbe Resident Engagement AI is used with over 550 communities to help older adults live longer, healthier lives. Now let's start with the problem at the heart of this conversation: falls. Well, falls don't happen in isolation. They often begin with something more subtle. What you likely know is disengagement. When residents stop showing up, when they start withdrawing, that's when their risk skyrockets. And we've seen a clear pattern. Disengagement leads to falls, and falls often leads to move-outs. The result: everyone suffers. Residents experience pain and loss of independence, families lose trust, and staff feel demoralized. Operators face not only emotional consequences, but steep financial ones. Falls are expensive, and they drive up care needs, occupancy loss, and hospital transfers. Here's what happened when one of our partners implemented a new strategy using Wellbe. In one kosher community, move-outs after a fall dropped from 13 in the first quarter to just 2 in the second quarter. Across the board, they saw a 16% improvement in residents meeting engagement goals, a 30% drop in move-outs after falls in all communities, and in one pilot community, an incredible 85% reduction. The change, using engagement data proactively after a fall. So let's pause here and ask a foundational question. Why are residents falling? The first answer isn't medical, it's behavioral. It's about prevention. We prevent falls by addressing the root causes, social isolation and inactivity. With Wellbe, operators can track and reduce isolation, boost physical engagement, and personalized programming based on real resident data. So no guesswork, just insights that lead to action. Now, we can't fully stop falls. Falls are going to happen. So the next question is, how do we reduce the severity of those falls? How do we help people get up again, literally and figuratively, so they don't need to go to the hospital for treatment? So data shows that physically engaged residents are more resilient. Wellbe helps communities track trends across individual groups, like changes in mobility or walker use, so you can adjust programming and interventions in real time. And risk assessments are updated automatically. Now, when residents recover from a fall, their chance of falling again is, as you know, very high, and the outcomes will be often more severe. So how do we support residents when they return to the community to prevent yet another fall? Now, our customer, Kosher, implemented a new model. Wellbe sends an alert when a resident returns from hospital. A new assessment is triggered automatically to identify how their mobility and physical needs have changed. Staff are prompted to schedule a one-to-one to re-engage the resident the very next day. And we track skip programs and rising escalation risk and intervene with ones-to-ones as needed. And this process gets the resident back into community life and being resilient fast. So in this community, one assisted living resident had a fall with a hip fracture. Before Wellbe, this might have ended in a move-out, but this time she was assessed the day she returned from hospital. She had a one-to-one scheduled immediately, and within 30 days, she attended 44 programs, 13 of them being physical. So she just didn't recover, she re-engaged, and she stayed. Now, this can be done with simple but powerful workflow changes. Collaboration effort with all team members is critical. This is a full home intervention. Daily stand-ups should include return from hospital alerts, and monthly reporting should flag overdue assessments, residents at risk, and physical program alignment. Wellbe also breaks out KPIs for returning residents versus new move-ins, so teams know exactly where to act. And in terms of reporting, we found these examples of EHR and resident engagement data helpful for keeping your teams accountable to resident health. At Wellbe, we believe falls are preventable and manageable when they happen, when we engage residents meaningfully. And if you're ready to reduce move-outs, drive better outcomes, and support your team with tools that work, I'd love to chat. Let's build healthier communities together. My contact info was on the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. That was an excellent presentation. So yes, so we have 10 minutes. We can do a more lengthy question and answer here. And so if people want to put their question in the Q&A area, I can read it aloud for people to um, respond to as you'd like. So let's start with the first question that we had here, and I'll open this up to everybody. So the questions are for presenters. For the presenters, I'm a technologist, consultant, educator, researcher focused on fostering innovation without sacrificing inclusion, with a keen interest in accessibility innovations. So have you worked on any innovations related to the accessibility space in your verticals? So I know with Wellbe, that's a lot about monitoring. If there's maybe something, how do you make this accessible to people? Maybe some of the key things that you've learned, as well as with Path, how does this become a platform that's more accessible to people maybe outside of the research sphere, as well as the technology that Zain and Adrianne are using to train their models for as well. If anyone wants to take it away.
Yeah, maybe I can start off here. So for the accessibility for our technology, our TLS systems, is really interesting because a lot of these technologies are pre-installed in long-term care facilities. And so really we can go in and collect data at these different facilities, and then the innovation is really in the machine learning algorithm that allows us to assess and detect motor agitation amongst other clinical metrics.
And then maybe like for the Path platform, is this mainly for researchers who want to have their system kind of track data, or is this something that maybe there's an innovator in the community who wants to use integrate with the Path platform? Is this some way that people can get involved as well?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So far, our I would say clients or partners have been researchers, but I believe we are also open to innovators. And if they want to do the same thing for a product, because as the name says, it's an accelerator program to help them commercialize their product, validate their product. So that's possible. Yes.
And Nigel, is there anything you would like to add on Wellbe, how other platforms maybe fit into it, or how this how your platform, I guess, is used and how it can be made accessible, or how people will generally see it?
Me too. Just to check, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Awesome. So as I included in my opening, we're partnered with over 550 communities today, North American wide. Wellbe is used primarily by life enrichment teams. You may also know them as recreation teams, activities, etc. They go by many different names. We're deployed in the cloud, so we're a cloud-based platform, so no additional investment in hardware or on-premise software, and it can be accessed wherever you have an internet connection and a web browser. So really easy to deploy. Common deployment takes between 4 to 6 weeks. Most of that work being on our end with configurations, and then followed by about 6 hours of training for life enrichment staff. We integrate with primarily EHR solutions, so point-click care as an example, to name others, Matrix Care, Yardi, etc. And we work in concert with those systems of record to ensure that we're both pulling down critical data from the EHR and posting that back up to maintain that EHR as the system of record.
And then I guess one thing that comes from this, so because one of these questions really touches on uh, security, privacy, safety, and kind of like the different ways that these systems could be abused. So I know like for my technologies, generally you need Health Canada approval. And so this can be like a 2 to 3 year process to get healthcare approval for a hardware system. It usually can cost $10,000-$20,000, or if you you might also need to employ some people, make some changes along the way. For these software-based platforms, is it similar that you kind of can get healthcare approval, and that approval allows you to either sell your product or to integrate only into specific research studies? So how does it work to go through the certifications, and what would be the certifications for these software-based platforms when you're integrating into either research studies or just care more directly?
Sorry, is that question towards everyone or?
Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
may I
you
start
started to
then?
answer this, so I wanted maybe
Sure.
you could start, and then Welby and even yeah, our first presenters could
Yes,
answer as well.
absolutely. Um, So for the security and privacy, I'm not fully aware of the steps that have been taken, but I know that what the plan is. I know that we are working on certificates like SOC 2 and other certificates for the data privacy and security. Moreover, in order to be able to have experiments executed on path, you have to first get an RIB approval from the institute you are registered through. Because for the path, you have to be invited to the platform, and that means there is a hierarchy. There is a project lead, there is a site lead, and then there are delegates. So there has to be an REB in the first place for each project. And regarding on where we are storing this data, most of our infrastructure is on AWS at the moment, but the data is stored here in Canada. So we are not there yet regarding the certifications, but we are working on it.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to add that we serve the needs of security conscious organizations and operators, and we are compliant with security standards that are set out both in Canada as well as the US. So in Canada, that would be PIPEDA. In the US, it would be HIPAA. We also maintain SOC 2 certification, which is a third-party independent audit that we undergo yearly and ensures that a third party is validating and verifying our robust security posture.
And is there like ethics tied into these platform, like these kind of these certifications? Like, is that something that is part of it, or is it more based on like the kind of technology itself and its like ability to control who's in?
Sorry, who's that question directed to?
Maybe both platforms, just because
What are-
I'm less aware of that software side.
Can you repeat the question?
So I guess as far as like making decisions that are, I guess, ethical, or maybe there's some ethical frameworks on how to make sure that the data is handled and maybe less biased, things like this. What would be, do these certifications already kind of group that into, is this something that you need to prove to get these certifications?
Maybe I can answer that a little bit. A lot of these certifications, they have specific definitions. So they're not there to make sure that everything is ethical. As in, if you are complying with these certification, doesn't mean now you're doing everything ethically. That's another thing that you need to do within the company. Make sure that, you know, you're taking care of the ownership of the data, who's the custodian, how you're using it, what's the bias. So that's a much, much bigger effort that needs to be always consciously be done. These certificates like SOC and the other ones that were mentioned, they're usually just checklists. You need to make sure that, you know, your data is complying with this, complying with that, where does it reside, and you need to do it regardless, especially if you want to do certain things. For example, if you want to handle health data, But then the whole conversation about being ethical with the data becomes a much, much bigger conversation on top of that.
All right, thanks for making that much more clear to me. Okay, so I know it's 1:10. With that, I would like to thank all of our speakers today. Very kind of you to make such excellent presentations and deliver it to our EPIC community. And also, please reach out to the presenters in their slides. There's some contact information if there's more questions that you have on that. So with that, thank you everybody for attending the first of the EPIC conference days.